Why is it that the kindest, most highly self-aware people almost always end up trapped in the most toxic, soul-crushing relationships? You spend your entire life trying to be a good person, trying to understand others, and trying to heal the people around you, yet you somehow constantly attract individuals who completely drain your energy. You might think you just have terrible luck in love or friendships, but the truth is far more calculated and dangerous. You are caught in a psychological dynamic known as the empath's trap, and master manipulators are actively hunting for people exactly like you. To understand why you are a magnet for toxic people, we have to look at how your brain is wired. You are what psychologists call an emotional sponge. You do not just observe other people's emotions, you physically absorb them. When you walk into a room, you can instantly taste the unspoken tension. You feel the hidden anxiety of your coworkers, the silent sadness of a friend, and the unexpressed anger of your partner. Because your emotional boundaries are naturally porous, you take on their pain as if it were your own. Manipulators are incredibly observant, and they can spot this trait from a mile away. They are unconsciously drawn to you like moths to a flame because they sense that you are someone who will endlessly listen, deeply understand, and hold space for their chaos without ever holding them accountable. Almost immediately, you are forced into the role of the unofficial therapist. You perform massive amounts of invisible emotional labor, constantly checking in on them, soothing their manufactured crises, and trying to fix their brokenness. But here is the devastating reality of this dynamic: it creates a severe emotional asymmetry. You give profoundly, but you receive absolutely nothing in return. The moment you need support, the moment you are exhausted and crying out for help, they vanish. They do not know how to handle your complex emotional needs, so they simply abandon you in your darkest moments, leaving you feeling profoundly lonely and completely misunderstood. If you are sitting there realizing that you have spent years being the emotional dumping ground for toxic people who never gave you anything in return, hit that subscribe button right now, because we are about to expose exactly how they keep you trapped. Once they have turned you into their emotional caretaker, they need to ensure you never leave, so they deploy a devastating psychological weapon called the illusion of truth effect. This is a terrifying cognitive bias where the human brain begins to believe a lie simply because it has been repeated enough times. The manipulator knows that you are highly analytical, so they cannot just lie to you once. Instead, they slowly and methodically repeat the exact same half-truths over and over again. Every time you bring up a valid concern, they look at you and say, "You are just being too sensitive," or, "You are overthinking this, like you always do." At first, your deep-thinking mind fights back. You know you are right. But over time, the relentless repetition completely wears down your critical thinking. You start to internalize their lies. You begin to question your own sanity, wondering if maybe you really are just too sensitive, or if you really are the one destroying the relationship. They effectively rewrite your reality, forcing you to apologize for crimes you never committed. And just when you are feeling the most confused and vulnerable, they bring in their ultimate weapon, a tactic known as triangulation. This is perhaps one of the most destructive and isolating maneuvers a toxic partner can ever use against you. Triangulation happens when the manipulator intentionally brings a third person into your dynamic to invalidate your reality and completely isolate you. They will look at you during an argument and say something like, "Even Sarah thinks you are overreacting," or, "All of my friends agree that you have completely changed lately." It doesn't even matter if that third person actually said those things, or if the person even exists. The goal is entirely psychological. By creating the illusion of a majority opinion against you, they manufacture an immense amount of social pressure. You suddenly feel like a crazy outsider in your own life, surrounded by their invisible supporters. Triangulation is designed to make you question yourself and feel completely alone, because an isolated empath is infinitely easier to control. You end up desperately fighting to prove your worth, not just to the manipulator, but to this invisible audience they have weaponized against you. You stay in the relationship, trying to fix the unfixable, because your deep-thinking brain is convinced that if you just explain your feelings one more time, using the perfect words, they will finally understand and change. But this is the fatal flaw of the deep thinker. You assume that the manipulator's misunderstanding is an accident. You project your own beautiful empathy onto someone who is completely incapable of feeling it. You keep trying to heal someone who is actively using your medicine to poison you. So, how do you finally break free from the empath's trap? You have to radically shift your perspective. You must accept that not every wound can be fixed with your understanding, and some people are absolutely committed to misunderstanding you because it serves their agenda. The solution is not to become cold, bitter, or less empathetic. The solution is to become dangerously discerning. You must embrace the archetype of the wounded healer. You take all the pain, the betrayal, and the gaslighting you have endured, and you use it to forge ironclad boundaries. You must recognize that your profound depth, your sensitivity, and your ability to love so intensely are rare and sacred gifts in a world that is completely starving for authenticity. You cannot keep throwing these pearls to people who treat them like dirt. You have to stop being the emotional sponge for people who refuse to clean up their own messes. When they try to deploy the illusion of truth and call you too sensitive, you do not argue, you simply agree and walk away. You tell them, yes, I am highly sensitive, which is exactly why I will no longer tolerate your toxic behavior. You strip them of their power by refusing to play the game. You take your massive emotional energy back from the vampires and you start investing it entirely into yourself and into the rare few who actually match your frequency. If this psychological deep dive finally gave you the words to describe the toxic cycles you have been trapped in for years, I need you to smash that like button right now. Liking the video tells the algorithm that this truth is necessary, and it helps push this lifeline to another deep thinker who is sitting in their room right now, crying, thinking they are the crazy one. Do not forget to hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a single upload from our community. Head down to the comments and tell me your story. Have you ever been a victim of triangulation, or have you suffered from severe empathy fatigue from carrying everyone else's burdens? Share your experience, because when you speak your truth, you give everyone else in this community the courage to do the same. Protect your energy, guard your empathy, and I will see you in the next video.